Okay, today we've got 4.3. I want to make sure that I get this whole thing in with within the 15 minutes, so there's not multiple videos like last time. Today, actually, a little bit light compared to what we've been doing. We're going to get back into combining like terms situations here. We're going to see a couple different types here with adding, subtracting, and multiplying. And this is all stuff you've done before, or just kind of bigger and bigger problems. So this first one that you see that we're going to be looking at is when we're adding. And I think we've talked about this a little bit this year so far. When you are adding even these huge polynomials, you don't have to worry about this grouping at all, okay? Because if you're just adding these two chunks together, you're just combining as is. You don't have to worry about distributing anything. There's no signs that are changing. We're just combining 7u squared, negative 5u, negative 4, positive 3u squared, negative u, positive 2. We're just going to combine them for everything that has the matching variable terms, okay? Now, even though we have a u squared and a plain u, but just because they're the same letter for a variable, that doesn't mean they're like terms, okay? A variable squared versus the same variable all alone are still different types of terms. So the u squared terms, the 7u squared is only going to combine with another u squared. So we have 7u squared plus 3u squared. 7 plus 3 is going to be 10. That's how many u squareds we have. We're not going to have 10u to the fourth, okay? When we're adding like terms, we're just saying how many total of that type of term do we have. We had 7, we added 3, now there are 10 u squared terms, okay? You don't end up with u to the fourth. That happens when we multiply, which we'll see in a little bit. After the u squareds, we've got just one, oh, I'm sorry, this should be a 5u, okay? After the u squareds, we have two of the u terms, negative 5u and negative u. So that just a negative u is technically a negative 1. That's just one more negative u value. So negative 5 minus one more is going to be now negative 6u. And then these constants, remember that's the term for just a number that's just being added or subtracted without a variable. Those constants will be combining as like terms as well. So negative 4 plus 2 will be negative 2. And once you have no more like terms to combine, we've got a u squared, a u, and a constant. I can't combine any more of those together. You're done. So that's completely done. That's as far as you can go. That'd be your final answer. Now when we're subtracting, okay, when we're subtracting, what's really happening is we're subtracting each of these pieces. So it's like there's a negative 1 out front that we need to be distributing. So the negative 7v squared, the positive 4v, and the negative 5 in front stay put. They're just being grouped as a trinomial there. Nothing is being distributed out front there, okay? So that front trinomial stays the same. Now, in the back half, when we're subtracting each of these terms, we have to distribute that subtraction. So it's minus the 2v squared, minus v, and minus 6. So notice how all those signs change because we're subtracting each of them. Once that part is done, you're doing the exact same thing we just did. So now you're just locating and combining like terms. We have negative 7v squared and negative 2v squared. Negative 7 minus 2 more is a negative 9v squared. A positive 4v minus a single v. So we have 4 minus 1 will be a positive 3v. And then those constant terms are last. We have negative 5 minus 6 more. Those will combine to be minus 11. And again, you've gone as far as you can go because we can't combine anything else. And that's your final answer. Okay, now when we're multiplying, there's two ways you can do this. I personally like the FOIL method, okay, where you're just distributing you're distributing the first term to both the back terms, and then you're distributing the second term to both of those back terms in the back expression. Okay? So that's FOILing. So what's going to happen there, we've got 3a times 7a. So 3a times 7a is going to equal, well, 3 times 7 is 21. Now this is where your variables change a little bit. A times a is a squared, right? So now we end up with 21a squared out of that multiplication. 3a times a negative 4. So we've got 3a times a negative 4. 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. And there's just the one a involved, so it just stays as an a value. Even though that negative 4 doesn't have an a involved, it's a part of what we're multiplying. So we have negative 12a, all those combined. Negative 1 times 7a is going to equal negative 7a. And then negative 1 times negative 4 is going to give us positive 4. So now we've got 21a squared minus 12a minus 7a plus 4. And your last step here, you're never done until all of your combining is finished. So some of us might stop here and think we're done because we did all the multiplication. There is one set of like terms, and that's right here with a negative 12 and a negative 7a. So we end up with 21a squared minus 19a plus 4. Now there's nothing left to combine. There's one type of each of those terms, and we're done. The other way you could end up doing this is that area method, where you make a box. Okay? You make that box, and one of those binomials is going to go along the side. That's not right. (3a). One of those is going to go along the side, 3a and then negative 1. The other one's going to go along either the top or the bottom, 7a and negative 4. And then you're just finding the area of each of those little boxes. So this little box has 3a times 7a, 21a squared. This box has negative 1 times 7a, that's negative 7a. This box in the top right is going to have 3a times negative 4, which is going to be negative 12a. And then the box on the bottom right is going to have negative 1 times negative 4, which is going to be positive 4. And then here, you also have to make sure you're accounting for the like terms, which are going to end up in these two diagonal boxes. So negative 12a and negative 7a, which is the same situation we saw when we FOILed, and you're going to end up with 21a squared. These two combined are going to be negative 19a, and then we've got that 4, positive 4 in the bottom right-hand corner, and you see that we end up with the same thing. Okay? So there's two ways that you can multiply those binomials. When we get to just a distributive property, there's just one thing you need to be distributing, right? So when you end up with this first one of 6z cubed times 7z, okay? 6 times 7 is going to be 42. Z cubed times another z, which is just technically z to the first. When you multiply powers that have the same base, you add the exponents. So then it's going to be z to the fourth. And if we write that out, we'll see why. Because 6z to the third is technically 6 times z times z times z. And then times 7z is times 7 and one more z. So we have 6 times 7, which is 42, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 z terms. So that's how we end up with 42z to the fourth. The next one 6z cubed times a 2z squared. Well, 6 times 2 is going to be 8. And z to the third times z to the second, you just add those, will be z to the fifth. Okay? Technically, this would be correct. Technically, it's not a bad idea to get into the habit of rewriting it with the bigger exponent going first, the higher power. And have that as your final answer. I don't think Alex is going to mark that as wrong, but it's not a bad idea to always be in the habit of rewriting it with your bigger powers going first. Okay. Next one, I'm really trying to squeeze it into the 15 minutes here so we don't have 2 videos. Rewrite this. Okay. When you have something squared, we talked about this the last couple days. It's just that one piece times itself. You're going to have v minus 7 times another v minus 7. And now you're looking at the exact same thing as we did here with the binomials. Okay? So you've got v times v, which is v squared. You've got v times negative 7, which is negative 7v. You've got negative 7 times v, which is another negative 7v. And negative 7 times negative 7, which is a positive 49. Make sure you finish by combining any like terms. They're going to be in the middle, the 2v terms. So you've got v squared minus 14v, sorry, negative 7 minus another 7, negative 14v, and then plus 49. Okay? Last one. You're just distributing. This is kind of like FOIL. There's just more going on. You're making sure you're distributing each piece from the first term to each piece from the second term. Here's a little hint. There's 2 terms here. There's 3 terms here. After you're done multiplying, you should have 6 terms. Obviously, we might have to combine some afterwards, but you should end up with 6 terms from your multiplication, your distributive property. Okay? So that first one, we're going to have, excuse me, we're going to have 5y times 7y squared, which is going to be 35, and then y to the third. Then you're going to have 5y, actually let me do this, 5y times 3y, which is going to be 15y squared. And then you're going to have 5y times negative 4, which is going to be negative 20y. So those are our first 3 multiplications. The next 3, 2 times 7y squared is going to be 14y squared. 2 times 3y is going to be 6y, and 2 times negative 4 is going to be negative 8. All right? These are your 6 terms after multiplication, but we always have to make sure that we're combining any like terms that we see. So we've got 1 cubed term. There are no others. So we've got 35y cubed. Okay? And then we end up with a 15y squared and a 14y squared. So those two have to combine. 15 plus 14 is going to be 29y squared. We end up with a negative 20y and a 6y. Those two have to be combined. They're like terms. Negative 20 plus 6 will be negative 14y. And then that last term all by itself is that one constant of negative 8. And I've got like 25 seconds left here. That's your final answer. There's no more simplifying to be doing. Okay? So I know it went a little quick. If you need to go back and watch some of those again, or pause it and look at one example at a time to kind of see what you want to look at specifically, use the video to your advantage to be able to kind of pause and rewatch some things. Okay? That is 4.3, and good luck on the homework.